This is Pallava version. And then there's another attack by Pulakeshi where he says, Kanchipura prakarantaritam praptam akaroti yaha Pallavanam patim. So Pulakeshi is, making Kanchi Pati, who is Pallava, run into the walls of Kanchipuram. Because he is Pallava, he made Pallava afraid of the dhuma or the dust because of the war. So he says, I made him run inside the walls for protection. So that's and then comes Mahendra the second, who didn't rule much, just a year of his reign, and then comes Parameshwara.
But anyways, I think this is a central part that we need to focus on, because that's coming from, and that's when the temples are coming from.
Yeah, but Kailashanatha is built by Rajasimha, Narasimha, and then Mahendra, and then Parameshwara, and then Rajasimha or Narasimha Varma the second. So he builds Kailashanatha. We'll come to Parameshwara in a bit. We'll proceed, because Parameshwara is also found in the inscriptions of Kailashanatha. So it will be better if we look at Parameshwara through the inscription of Kailashanatha. But just for an introduction, Mahendra the second rules just for a year, and then Parameshwara comes. Parameshwara is kind of very, very important because of his military conquests, and just after a year of his succession, Vikramaditya the first comes and invades Kanchi and all of that. So Parameshwara goes, and that time, because Vatapi was already destroyed by Narasimha, they set up a small satellite town called as Ranarasikapura, and that is being destroyed by Parameshwara. So, and then again, back and forth. After him is when Narasimhavarman II comes, son of Parameshwara. And then, he rules for a full good 40 years, where he leaves around a number of inscriptions. He assumes hundreds and hundreds of titles, music flourishes, temple building activities happening, art is happening, architecture is happening, all of this is happening. So that's a brief timeline. I know I just skimmed through it. There's a lot to it, but yeah.
Right. And there's actually one thing, Pratik. So as you mentioned, this is not exactly related to our subject, but because you mentioned it, I felt like talking about that. So as you said, Kanchi precedes the Pallava reign. So and I think that is true to most of the most of the capital cities in Tamil, the Tamil capital cities. That is very strikingly different from what I've observed in Karnataka or Kannada-speaking dynasties, because all of look at the capitals of Kannada, Karnataka dynasties, they're all villages right now. They're all ruins. But on the other hand, the capital cities of Tamil dynasties, they're all flourishing towns and cities in themselves.
Even today.
Because if you as you said, like if you take Badami and Kanchi as parallels, Badami is like 30,000 population. It's a village today. So likewise, let's say Halebeed is a village, and Hampi is in ruins. Every Basava Kalyana, which is the capital of the Kalyani Chalukyas, they're all in ruins. But on the other hand, if you take the exact flip, if you take Madurai or Tanjavur or right, I think the only exception probably in Karnataka is Mysore city itself, and that is, it is not the age of all under the protection of British at that point. So I think that is one of the reasons could be that when the kings was choosing the capitals in Tamil regions, they already chose major pilgrimage sites. So those would flourish independent of the king's patronage, because some king will definitely come and patronize the gods or the priests, and it's a trading city and so on, right? Let's move ahead. Yeah, now as I said, Pattadakal, and Pattadakal, the name itself suggests that it's the center of coronation for the Chalukyan kings. The word Patta, which means the coronation, the consecration of the king. Now Pattadakal, I think, is very, very special. For that matter, both Pattadakal and Badami are very special for this very, very unique kind of coincidence of both Nagara as well as Dravidian temple styles. And as far as I remember, as far as I can think, I don't think there are too many dynasties, or I don't think there are any other dynasties, in fact, which sort of patronized both styles of architecture. So if you see right here, now if you see in the picture that's on the left, which is let's say the zoom, the long take of the Pattadakal site. Here you see the Galaganatha temple, which is in the Nagara style. Right behind that, you see the Mallikarjuna temple, which is in the Dravidian style. So this is a huge rarity in Indian history. So that I think that's one of the specialities of the Pattadakal site. And Pattadakal incidentally is also UNESCO heritage site. And
Kanchi also. Kanchi also. Kailasanatha also.
Okay,
Oh,
fine.
no,
And
it is not.
so
Only Mahamallapura.
Yeah, Mahabalipuram is right. That's what Kanchi. I don't think is. So I mean, so Pattadakal, I think the site, when you go to the site, it feels like an epic in itself, because there is this small temple that you begin with called the Kadavishweshwara temple, which clearly shows some sort of signs of the Pashupata sects, and it's a small temple. It's a small Nagara temple with just 4 niches. There are just 4 sculptures on all sides. That's all. And from there till Virupaksha temple, which is like the climax. You know, it was built around 740 CE. That's the climax of Chalukyan power. So it's like you know, this one of these our beautiful creepers in Indian architecture. They're small. They start from small node and they explode into this like completely, you know, like the bickering stream of flowers. Right. That's how Pattadakal, the town, that's the temple town also unfolds. But today, as I said, as is the case with most of the Karnataka region major royal cities, it's just a village. Like barring the small protected region, protected monument site, there is nothing outside. So you can't even get food there. So it's just a village today. And could you go to the next slide? Yeah. So this is the layout of the site. So in this, I think the rightmost is the Kadavishweshwara, which is a small. I mean, as I was saying, look at just compare the sizes. The small one to the right is the smallest temple, earliest temple, and that is the Nagara style temple, and the leftmost, okay, that is the Virupaksha temple. Virupaksha and Mallikarjuna temple are like twin temples. They were built around the same time. They were built in the reign of the same king, who is Vikramaditya. And they're both Dravidian style temples, but the grandest by far is Virupaksha temple. Virupaksha temple is probably, it's literally the if you take the length, you know, the height of the base Adhisthana up to the Kalasha, that's the tallest Chalukyas ever reached in their entire history. So that is the specialty of Virupaksha temple. And yeah, and another interpretation has been that the two styles not only reflect the dual patronage that the kings were giving, but also the religious influences upon them. So like they believe that the Nagara temples reflect the Pashupata, the let's say the more let's say the more folk kind of cults, while the more Vedic, more traditional, more orthodox cults are reflected in the Dravidian style temples. So that is one of the interesting interpretations that I read. And so at this junction, it's worth mentioning that Virupaksha temple is said to reflect the Kailasanatha temple. It is said to compete with the Kailasanatha temple while retaining many of its features. So it's which is why I call it, which is why I like calling it a love-hate story. That there is hate, there is competition, but there's also this sort of healthy imitation of the motifs that are available in Kailasanatha. And yeah, I think you can go ahead now. Talk about, you know, Kanchi.
You want to talk about the?
No, this is a Virupaksha, so I'll come later to this. You talk about Kanchi.
So yeah, Kanchi, as we saw earlier, it has been the center of the Pallava thing. So yeah, the temple building activity in Kanchipuram, in and around Kanchipuram, begins with Mahendravarma himself. So I mean, he has around Kanchipuram, he has a lot of cave temples that he has built. And although we cannot trace back constructed temples to Mahendra's period, we do have mentions of temples like Ekambranatha, etc. in literatures that he himself composed, like Mattavilasa Prahasanam. So in Mattavilasa, he does talk about the Ekambranatha temple. So
it happens right outside Ekambranatha, right?
It just happens outside Ekambranatha and all of that. So therefore, the temple very much existed, but not in its form that it is today. One more thing that you spoke about is, I want to just build on that, Kanchi versus Pattadakal. So these many of the shrines in Kanchipuram today are from Pallavas. For example, when we take Kachapeshwara, for example. So Kachapeshwara is definitely a Pallava shrine, especially because when you see the lingam, and behind the lingam there is this beautiful Pallava Somaskanda, significantly, characteristically Pallava Somaskanda with the style and all of that. But no other structure inside the complex except for stray pillars is Pallava. And the complex is so huge. Similarly, Ekambranatha. The central shrine, the Somaskanda, is definitely Pallava, but nothing else, not even one element is Pallava there. So the thing is, the continuous patronage to all these temples have rendered them, many of them lose their original structure and expand in their own styles, with just very few remnants of Pallava that's remaining. But having said that, there are few temples like Iravasthanam, Tirvasthanam, and Kailashanatha, of course, and a few other Mukteshwara and some other temples which retain fully Pallava architecture. And among those 7 temples which retain Pakka Pallava architecture to itself, this one, which is Kailashanatha, is the grandest. And speaking about the sects that you mentioned, I mean, different Shaiva sects, like you mentioned in Patadakal as to Pashupatas and the others, even in Kanchi, I think we can make a distinction. Like, for example, when we look at a small shrine called Rishabheshwara inside Ekambranatha complex, it is, I mean, nobody will even tell that it is Pallava because they've all built it up with concrete and all of that. So it looks hideous today. But then look at, but then look at it from inside. Behind the Dhara Lingam, there is Kankala and Kali sitting with Khatvanga, with the skull and with the Trishula, with the Chamara and all of that. So it is typically Kalamukha in nature. So and then that is one thing. So I mean, you don't have for any Saumya Murti in Dakshina, at least in at least the Dravida Desha, for any Saumya Murti, it is a rule that you don't give a Khatvanga. In the north, even for Nataraja, Khatvanga can be given, even for Saumya Murtis. Only for Ugra Murtis in south, usually Khatvanga is given. But in Rishabheshwara alone, we find that both of them are smiling and sitting on the lap of each other, but then they hold a Khatvanga and a Trishula and a Chamara and all of that. Typically, scholars say that this is a Kalamukha shrine. Having said that, coming to Kailasanatha, in the inscription itself, he says, Vidita Bahunaya Shaiva Siddhanta Marge. So perhaps the first inscriptional epigraphic mention of Shaiva Siddhanta. Right. So, yeah, so I mean, these different sects of Shaivism, as you mentioned, in Patadakal, probably with the architectural variation is an interpretation that the scholar that you read makes. But here it is evident even through epigraphic material where he says, Vidita Bahunaya Shaiva Siddhanta Marge. So Shaiva Siddhanta takes its royal patronage at this time. And it's also worth mentioning that it is believed that Ayyadigal Kadabargon, or one of the earliest Nayanmar of the 63 Nayanmar sects, is believed to be a Pallava king.
Okay. And also, I mean, we also know that there was awareness, at least there was very, very strong consciousness of these sects from, as you said, Mattavilasa Prahasana, which is in fact the dialogue between these different sects, right? There is there's a Kalamukha, there's a Kapalika and the Pashupata, right?
Yeah. And then there's a Buddhist. I mean, it's a very, very interesting thing. I think we should do one on Mattavilasa sometime later.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, this is an add-on to what I said. So the first shrine that I mentioned, which is the Kadavishweshwara, that's a really small shrine. One of the niches has the image of Lakulisha. And the reason we know it's Lakulisha is it's like a standing figure. It's like a very bare, in fact, you can say it's the least glamorous figures in Patadakal. It's just a standing figure with some sort of rod in his hand. So you just you believe that, and then you say, okay, maybe this must be Lakulisha. It's too less glamorous to be Shiva himself. So it must be some other, it's like the Pashupata figure. So
does he have an erect phallus? I mean, is the Urdhvalinga visible?
I as far as I remember, I don't think so. I mean, it's I think it's actually it's quite spoiled actually right now. It's not proper.
All right.
And incidentally, one of the temples, which is the Mallikarjuna temple, has one unfinished sculpture. As I remember, that's one of the only ones that I noticed in Patadakal site. Maybe there are others also, but this is very, very prominent. There's a Varaha image which is not spoiled, which is not finished.
Interesting. So as far as the the layout of Kanchi Kailashanatha is concerned, I mean, there are, as you can see, we saw in the first picture, these Devakulikas all around. This is the major shrine of Rajasimheshwara, or what is today called as Kailasanatha. Rajasimha called it Rajasimheshwara, obviously. So this is the major shrine. And one important feature that we need to notice as far as the architecture is concerned is that this is a Sandhara Vimana. So a Vimana with a Pradakshina Patha inside, or a circumambulation path inside the tower itself, is called a Sandhara Vimana. One without it is called as a Nirandhara Vimana. So a proto-Sandhara Vimana was already attempted at Mahabalipuram with the Dharmaraja Ratha. And then it comes here to Kailasanatha, it becomes a fully finished Sandhara Vimana, where you can enter the Vimana, have darshan and go around the main shrine while being inside the Vimana itself, while being under the Shikhara itself. So that is, this is a one of its kind starting of Sandhara Vimana types, I mean, which is to this scale. I mean, of course, the pathway is very, very small and all of that. I mean, I would find it difficult to get in. Probably Revanth can do it easily. So yeah, it's a little small. But then when you look at the Cholas, Rajaraja especially, Rajarajeshwara in Tanjavur has huge Sandhara inside. I mean, the circumambulation path inside the Vimana itself is huge, and that is there in the ground level as well as the first floor. So I think that because Rajaraja comes here and sees this and then goes, because he leaves an inscription saying Kachipet Periya Kachadi. In the city of Kanchipuram, there is this magnificent temple called Periya Kachadi, big stone temple, Shri Big Stone Temple. That's what he calls it. So so probably this inspired southwards Tanjavur. This inspired northwards Patadakal also. So again, later additions. This is a later addition by Mahendra Varman, son of Rajasimha. And then this is a Mantapa. This is the later addition by Mahendra Varma Pallaveshwara Griham. Other than this, in these the other Devakulikas that are here, the small shrines that are here, two of them are dedicated by Rangapataka, or the queen of. I mean, there is a debate. Padmabhushan Dr. Nagaswamy believes that Rangapataka is the queen of Rajasimha. Whereas Dr. Shankaranarayanan believes that that is not the case. She is the mother of Rajasimha and the queen of Parameshwara. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, so that's the overall view of the shrine as it is.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the temple. I mean, as you spoke about architecture, this is a Pakka Dravida architecture that is there, and this is the Shikhara of the temple. It's octagonal in nature, and then here it all becomes a square, and Chatritala plus one Shikhara. So it is, and then it has a Dravida Shikhara. So Dravida Nagara Mishra Vimana, or Vishnu Chanda Mishraka Vimana, you can call it. And then this one is an exception. This temple that you see here is not the Gopuram. It is the temple of Mahendra Varma that he built. This second shrine, addition by Rajasimha's son. So this one, if you see, it is a Shalakara Vimana, the oblong Vimana that is there. That is an exception, because generally Shalakara is prescribed in the Agamas for either Shakti or for Vishnu. So here he is using Shalakara for Shiva, which is somewhat unique, probably experimental, because in Ganesha Ratha we have, and then we have here, I think I have heard only of 2 Shalakara Vimanas for Shiva. And then the Proto-Gopuram, stuff for all of those huge Gopurams that we see in Tamil Nadu today is this humble looking small gateway that is here. That's all, the small Shala. So this becomes later, it evolves into this huge, so that's called a Pratoli or it's called as Dwara Shobha, Dwara Shala. So Dwara Shala. So
okay, could you go back a few slides to that drawing that I found?
Yeah.
So this was, as you can see in the caption, it was done by Cousins, who was the second surveyor to draw images of Pattadakal and cover, document Pattadakal site. He succeeded James Burgess as a document, as an archaeologist. So James Burgess is the first one to do the same activity. And as you can see, it's roughly, very, very roughly, is the same kind of style as Kailasanathar. But there are clear differences as well. So, for example, if you can notice, the Kalasha is very different from Kailasanathar. So Kailasanathar, it's much more rounded. I mean, it is the way I see it. the Kailasanadar is much more rounded, while here the base of the Kalasha seems flat. It's not even really a Kalasha. This the on the top of the Vimana, and the sorry, yeah, that yeah.
Okay. There it was a Dravida Shikhara. This is a four-sided Nagarav Shikhara.
Yeah, sure. Right. And this is, and it has three stories. The Vimana has three stories, and the other interesting feature is the Sukhanasa, which you can see very, very prominently in almost all the temples in Pattadakal, except the very small ones. And also another feature that is common in this, at least Karnataka, is that each story has one imprint of the whole Vimana, or it has an imprint of that specific story. And the Sukhanasa, if you notice, is very huge. It's almost half the size of the Vimana itself. And besides that, there is this Nandi Mandapa, I think. But today, there's a huge gap between the Mukha Mandapa and the Nandi Mandapa. And there is, and from the Mukha Mandapa, there are two exits also here. I think the highlight, however, of the temple are the images on the niches and the reliefs on all sides of the temple. So, which has similarly, as you're going to see in Kailasanadar also, there are images of all gods of Vishnu, forms of Vishnu, Shakti, Shiva, everybody, and as you said, there is that provision of being able to do an pradakshina inside the around the Garbhagudi without coming out of the Vimana. So that provision is there in Pattadakal as well, and the pillars. Can you move forward once?
Yeah. This one.
And as previous slide, the one there, and Virupaksha is right next to the Mallikarjuna temple, which is also very, very much similar to by style. It's very similar to Virupaksha, and some of the boundary wall that's surrounding the two is kind of broken, but otherwise you can see that they belong to the same complex at some point. And there is no separate Nandi Mandapa for Mallikarjuna. So the Nandi is shared by both temples. And Virupaksha is somewhat. I mean, both of them are in perfect east-west axis. So it's like one sort of one them at one time. It's like one complex within the main complex. Mm-hmm. And the pillar inscription also is shared by the two. It's right between the two of those temples. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, you want to talk?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, and even the pillars, if you notice, it has these the pillars of Virupaksha. They have this kind of, they have like corbels instead of pillar, but they have these two. They are these corbels which are, sorry,
Potikas. I mean this.
Yeah, exactly. So, and they are held by yakshas, and but incidentally, you find exactly the same kind of pillars in Alampur as well. Alampur is in the border of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, so it lies in Telangana, but it's almost near the border. It's like very, very close to the Kurnool town, and very, very similar kind of pillars you find there. So that is also almost exact. It's almost exactly like Pattadakal. In fact, one of the Navabrahma temples in Alampur is said to be a copy of Galaganatha temple, which I showed you earlier in Pattadakal. And so here on these pillars, I was not able to capture the photographs. So there are images of Bhishma lying on the Ampashaya. There are images of the churning of the ocean. There are images of from both Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there are scenes of Rama and Sita going to the forest. So the beginning of the Vanavasam. And incidentally, there are also images of Panchatantra stories on these pillars. So I think you can see what the images I'm talking about. So there are